Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We've had fan-oriented and analytic discussions on a variety of animated shows, movies, and anime, currently featuring Steven Universe, Miraculous Ladybug, The New Powerpuff Girls, and Voltron Legendary Defender. I am Dylan Hysen, and today I'm joined by Delaney Stovall.
Hello.
Justin Cummings.
Hey, everybody.
And Michelle Anderer.
Hello.
Today, Delaney, Justin, Michelle, and I will be discussing fusions in our weekly Steven Universe Roundtable. Every week we discuss Steven Universe in some capacity, whether it be a new episode or a topic in which we delve deeper into some aspect of the show. This week's it's all about fusions, and eventually at the end we'll discuss potential future fusions. So that will lead into speculation on future episodes. So thanks to Justin for outlining this episode, and he'll be taking a lot of the discussion here. But before that, overlyanimated.com, where you can check us out, and you can search for the Overly Animated Podcast on iTunes or your favorite podcatcher. I guess plug for our Voltron coverage. Last weekend, Delaney and I went through every episode of the new Voltron Legendary Defender, and we're about to also record a Voltron listener feedback show, so if you want to get into that show, check out our coverage of it. One thing before we start getting into fusions, as always, we're on new episode watch for Steven Universe. It's basically impossible to tell with Cartoon Network. I see that there are potentially 3 schedules out there that Cartoon Network has released.
Oh,
how do I miss this every time?
This is not something that you'll see released. This is like a very specific place to find this information. Anyway.
Is it Reddit? Where's the specific place?
It's from CO, links to something, anyway. Schedule 1 says Steven Floats will air Wednesday, June 29th at noon. I assume this is wrong.
That's a random time.
Schedule 2, yeah, that's probably Schedule
They've
2
done
says
that.
they are airing Steven Universe like around then on like certain weekdays.
I mean, during the summer, Cartoon Network has done it before. They have new episodes at noon because kids are out of school. They've done it before.
It's somewhat possible. Schedule 2 says Thursday, June 30th at 6 p.m. That's very possible. And then Schedule 3 does not have it airing at all.
No, it's not, Dylan, because that's when the Teen Titans versus Powerpuff Girls airs.
Well, that is airing at...
I would much prefer Steven Floats airs during that time period.
New Powerpuff Girls is now, I believe, 6:30 for the future. So,
is it 6:30?
Yeah,
okay,
so
so maybe.
Universe could air at 6 then.
You're
right, that is that. There it is, the Powerpuff Girls Teen Titans. Okay, anyway, so probably next week another roundtable, and then Steven Floats in some capacity. Nothing. Cartoon Network schedules are very unofficial until.
Didn't they once push a random episode back 3 hours? I think too far. Didn't they push it back randomly from 4:30 to 7:30 or something like that?
The worst thing Cartoon Network's ever done is pull Young Justice the day of for 4 months. So
they didn't air 8 episodes of Code Lyoko. You want to talk about
right? And they also just stop airing. Yeah, there's nothing like there's nothing to. We'll see. Whenever it airs, it airs. Until then, it's all speculation basically, unless we get like a press release. And even then, they did that with Summer of Steven, and now they've overridden it. So who even knows? Anyway, let's get into fusions. So there's a lot of ways to approach this. I see here Justin on the first point on his outline is a very theoretical view of fusion, much like we talked about on our How Do Steven and Rose Work type podcast.
Well, this is actually from Garnet as much as I could take. So this is trying to stick with what they've told us.
Okay, so this is so to start with, we'll go through stuff presented on the show. So yeah, tell us how is the show presented fusion?
Okay, so we're going to start with what is fusion, the very idea, and basically the way it was described in both Alone Together and also Giant Woman. The gems turn into light, and then they share their light with each other, and then reform into a new being entirely. So it's one mind, one body. They have to be in perfect sync to do it. And when they form, they are always bigger than their component parts, and except for like one case, there's extra body parts of some kind. Yeah. And the one case, of course, is Stovall, which is weird.
Yeah. That is true. That's a pretty big aspect of fusion, more body parts in some capacity. So does the show actually say they turn into light and then
Yes.
Yeah, Garnet says at one point.
Is this being explained to Steven?
Yes, because
Yeah.
I think it was either Garner or Amethyst actually said, "Oh, just turn yourself into light," and Steven's like,
Yeah. My problem with there's a lot of this stuff from, and this was more relevant before we've gotten things explained more explicitly, but in the beginning I was like, is this really how this works, or is this just how they're explaining it to Steven, right? That's how I feel about a lot of things. So I think it's not completely clear, but I also don't think the gems would understand how it works. Like I think that why would they know the scientifics behind their fusion? I feel like they would just think of it like this.
Mm-hmm.
They just do it. They don't know.
They just like like. Do we know? Like, we don't innately know how our biological functions work, right? It just like happens. So,
well, they could have studied it, like,
right?
You know,
unless like, I feel like Peridot might know like the technicalities of fusion, but I feel like
Peridot to have like a diagram like pulls down and it's like fusion.
Yeah, I think that'd be interesting. So they turn into light and form a new gen when the light combines. So, like, obviously, I feel like this is not exactly what's happening, right? Like, I mean, maybe this is the most explanation we'll ever get on the show.
I think we'll get a better explanation, but not for a while. I think they're going to wait on that, but I do think we will get a more in-depth explanation, and it will probably have to do with explaining why Steven doesn't act in that way. Like, when they finally have to explain the rules of Steven fusion, that's when they'll explain the rules of normal fusion.
Right. So, gem turns into light and form a new gem when the light combine. So, I think this is contradicted by Stovall.
Right.
How would Connie turn into light? That makes no sense.
But Steven's existence contradicts gem logic. So until we know more, we have
that's
nothing.
Kind of all we know.
I would reference me and Justin's discussion on Steven and Rose for how none of this makes any sense whatsoever. But
it's basically an hour of me throwing out theories and Dylan telling me how wrong I am. It's very quality entertainment.
Nothing makes sense with this. So it's like we're just gonna have to. I also don't think it matters too much how fusion technically works. I get caught up in it sometimes, this type of thing in the show, but really I think fusion is a vehicle for two things, and this is where I want to go with this discussion now. I feel like there's two sides to how the show uses fusion. Side one is a way to make like really cool character combinations that are like really colorful and fight in awesome ways. I feel like that's a lot of what we got in season one. Aesthetic fusion, kind of.
Yeah.
The other big aspect of fusion, and this is, I feel like the side of fusion that we've seen recently has been it as a vehicle for conveying messages about like relationships or sex, depending on how you want to look at it. Probably relationships. We can get into nitty gritty, but like this with regards to gems and like it as kind of a metaphor for that type of thing and a vehicle for a lot of the show's progressive messages. I feel like this is where we've gone a lot with season 2 and fusions. So I really feel like this is kind of two separate things to a certain extent. I don't know. At least, like, for me personally, I like really don't connect that much to aspect 1, and I connect a lot to aspect 2. So I don't know. I'm not gonna have a lot to say about how cool like Opal is, but I'll have a lot to say about how like what Garnet represents. You know. But this is gonna be different for different people, and I know there's a lot of different aspects of the show, and that's why a lot of different people like can appreciate different parts of it. So we'll hit on these two things as we go along. Let's, I guess, get into which fusions we have seen. Justin has here. You have episodes. You can, if you want to briefly describe, very, very briefly,
right,
what we get from the different fusions in the different episodes. And I guess like what's notable about talking about this fusion. I guess let's go with that.
Right, so I put the fusions in order of appearance that we knew they were a fusion. So I didn't put Garnet until a little bit later, because we didn't treat her or see her even as a fusion until the season 1 finale. So the first one I have is Opal. And what's actually significant about Opal is how we know what fusion is. Like, that's how they decided to start the idea in the show with the episode Giant Woman. And so for a while, all we knew about fusion was Opal. Like, for a long time, because there was a hiatus. So she was kind of our standard bearer for a while. We've only really seen her in Giant Woman, at least with a voice. We've seen her in The Return, and Vlog Day kind of acting as almost a protector, like the go-to bodyguard, I guess, of the gems when they need to fuse. Opal seems to be their go-to. But really, outside of introducing Fusion, we don't see a lot of Opal. The next one we saw was Sugalite, which
we can talk about Opal.
We can go through
more
them.
Opal? We can go through them individually. So,
okay.
Sorry, I'm eating Swedish fish. That's why I'm having Justin talk, so I can eat Swedish fish.
Oh my god.
So Opal, I feel like I can't appreciate how big of a deal Opal was when she came in on Giant Woman, because I wasn't watching the show week to week when that happened. I feel like that was like a big deal.
It was a big deal.
Like this Opal episode, the Giant Woman song. I think a lot of later comers to SU, I feel like we underrate like Giant Woman as a song, Opal as a concept. I don't know if you want to get into any of this type of stuff, Michelle. Like, I feel like this was like just like a big event for the Steven Universe fans.
It was. I mean, it was the first time we'd seen a fusion, and we didn't know till that point that fusion was like a thing that gems could just do whenever they wanted. And then we weren't sure if Steven could do it, even though Garnet kind of hints about it at the end of the episode. And I don't know, there was a lot of really good songs in that episode, and I think that was a really strong episode overall. And it's one of the first episodes we really saw the Pearl and Amethyst dynamic play out. Which is kind of gratifying now to see like how much easier they are around each other and how much easier they can even form Opal. But at the time, like, they struggled so much, and that said so much about their relationship at the beginning.
To a certain extent, we've lost track of how like essential of a character relationship Pearl and Amethyst have been on Steven Universe. Like, it was like super prominent early middle season 1, I think.
Yeah.
And Opal's kind of like the representation of the two of them. I mean, like, to whatever extent you think that's true for any fusion. But I love Opal's appearance in Log Day recently and just showing the comfortability between the two of them now. I'm not someone that's necessarily innately attached to those two characters together. So, but that definitely stuck out to me. Just how like casually it was kind of used in that episode. And I feel like that might be a thing that we see going forward.
Well, I mean, we did see them also in the return. It was very quick fusion, so yeah. I think we're definitely going to see it more and more.
Yeah, and yeah, I don't know. I feel like Opal's in terms of people ranking fusions. I feel like Opal's like everyone's everyone's initial favorite that no one will say is their favorite anymore, but everyone likes anyway. I don't know if that's true, but it's kind of like the original one, who's it's like everyone likes. Anyway, let's continue with Sugalite.
Literal Nicki Minaj. Seriously, this is the only time I've ever, like, one of 2 times I've liked Nicki Minaj. I really like Sugalite. We see Sugalite and Coach Steven, and basically the importance here, this is the first time we really get into like the other gems reaction, because when we saw Opal, Garnet wasn't there. This time we saw Pearl, the way she saw Sugalite, the way they reacted. This was the first time we kind of got that dynamic, which we didn't get again for a while. But Sugalite, I think, took the initial idea of fusion and added a lot to it. We only have seen Sugalite one time, that was Coach Steven. But really, this started getting into the idea of staying fused too long, the relationship not being stable enough, and also the jealousy between the gems when fusing, specifically Pearl and Amethyst. So, very important.
I would like to state for the record, this podcast is very pro Nicki Minaj as a person. I just think that's very important to get out there.
Thank you.
Very quality human being. Anyway, I mean, I don't know that much about her.
I just don't like her music that much.
Yeah,
so she's a great person.
She's supports progressive vision and stuff and is really good in that regard. Okay, so
she's great.
Michelle, comments on Sugalite.
She's really cool. Justin pretty much covered it. I mean, like, all the new stuff we found out about her was just, the idea of being fused too long, what that could do, and, like, I guess the idea of fusions kind of having their own separate identity outside of individual gems, which is interesting, and maybe we'll find more about that later in future episodes, but who knows what context that'll come up in. But not a lot to say about Sugalite as of now.
Yeah,
she's really cool, though. I love her design. I love her weapon.
Delaney, any comments?
I would probably just say that Sugalite's she's kind of my favorite. Just her design's the best. It makes Pearl angry. I love Pearl angry. Like all of it, just every. And I would want to point out more. It's not so much jealousy about and she's jealous of Amethyst fusing with Garnet, but it's more like, I mean, it's more tension between her and Garnet than.
Yeah.
But overall, Sugarlight's great. It is interesting how we're using like what each fusion means, not just like relationship-wise for the characters, but like as we get more and more fusions, the more and more we learn about fusions. Like with each fusion, we learn so much more, and yeah, I would agree that this is the first, obviously this is like fusion number 2. It's not like we knew anything really, but that we really see that it doesn't really matter the mixture of gems, that they will make a different person. Like they might have some elements of the personalities of the gems involved, but they're just a different person. So it kind of suggests, we haven't really had another volatile, aside from Malachite, obviously, another volatile fusion. So I wonder if we'll see more, like maybe like what other combinations might result in kind of brash, violent fusions.
Nice. That would be a good segue if we're talking about that next, but we're not for a while, so that'll be a teaser for our later discussion. Okay, let's move on to Alexandrite. Okay,
so Alexandrite, this was the, for the record, Alexandrite's actually the most gems we've seen fused of different types. The rubies, I think, have more, the rubies have more, but of
they're
different
just a big
type,
ruby, though.
that's, we don't really know how the same gem works. There could be,
well, have
who
we
knows
seen,
how
this
many.
Is 4 gems fusion.
Right, this is 4.
I don't think we've seen 3, right?
We've seen 3 gems fused. 3, like, Sugilite and Sardonyx are technically 3, because Ruby Sapphire plus.
Oh yeah.
Someone.
Well, except
okay.
when
that was stupid. The same logic that applies to make this 4 makes other ones 3. Yeah, you're right.
But we do technically. But when Alexandrite splits, we do see Ruby and Sapphire. So technically,
for a hot second,
I see it. Which actually, that will come up later.
All the Garnet fusions would count as multiple. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I have a question. I have a legitimate question. Okay, let's say we had Ruby, Sapphire, and Amethyst. So it's not Garnet and Amethyst, it's Ruby, Sapphire, and Amethyst. So when they're not fused already together as Garnet and then fuses Amethyst, if they're all 3 separate and they fuse, are they still going to be Sugarlight, or are they going to be a different?
I would assume.
I read on the wiki that order doesn't matter. It's basically like the associative property of no matter what order you put them in. So like, let's say. Pure hypothetical.
That's just what the wiki says, though. Does that that's not like?
I don't think it really knows unless it's like citing Rebecca Sugar, right?
We don't know that for a fact.
I can't remember if it might have been citing someone, but I think the idea is that order doesn't matter.
Delaney, if this was chemistry, then you would have to.
No, it is a legitimate question though, because when you think about it, because Garnet's who she is because Ruby and Sapphire fused to make her, but separately.
Yeah.
No, it's a legitimate question. I don't think we know the full extent of Garnet versus fusing.
I just wanted
to
raise the question.
My biggest,
a good question.
My big assumption is based on the fact that when we see Alexandrite fuse, we see the components separate and then come together. So that would lead me to believe that it's just the base chemical components rather than in order they're in when they're fused. That being said, that specifically showing us them separating was mostly a vehicle for foreshadowing. So I don't know if it was
unless that could have been a conscious decision also, like to make Alexandrite Garnet's like, okay, we can't be.
You can also give an in-universe explanation as well to why they might do that, right? But in terms of why the production did that, it wasn't necessarily to demonstrate this point. So I would say this is not clear, although I'm not sure if anyone's commented on this from the crew.
Right.
Definitely not clear in universe for sure. So
I'm going to come up with a chemistry explanation for fusion. I'll have to type up.
Please do.
Because science, or we can't use that. Alexandrite's importance. This is the only time. Well, not only time. Alexandrite's all of the crystal gems. So that's pretty important because we actually had not seen.
Gosh.
Okay.
Well,
at
not
the
Steven
moment,
and
it
not
was
our new gems. Jeez.
Okay.
Not the leader the new leader of the crystal gems is not in this.
Which it's kind of funny because we've only seen Alexandrite in the show twice. Once in an actual combat setting, but the first time we saw was at dinner. So,
Yeah.
Fusion Cuisine Super Watermelon Island, there's a third appearance, not in the show, but the game Attack the Light. Great game. Wanted to plug that. You do see Alexandrite as well. And basically, we don't know much about Alexandrite except that it seems, from what we saw in Super Watermelon Island, the gems kind of consciously rotate who's in charge.
We know that they.
According to what weapon they're using, or
So
what
she
do you mean?
Basically, what they do is they kind of layer the particular actor's voice over the others for which one's kind of in control.
Interesting.
You can actually tell, like, if you watch Super Watermelon Island, you can hear the voice shift.
So I think that
Right.
that's like an interpretation. So that's an interesting interpretation. Definitely, we know that Alexandrite has like access to all the fusion weapons, which is really cool. Yeah. I would say Alexandrite in Fusion Cuisine, I think, is my favorite use of the fusion.
Yes,
I think-
agree.
For the Dylan is anti season 1 discourse, Fusion Cuisine quality episode, for the record.
It is
okay.
quality.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just Alexandrite definitely like our cool looking one, who recently had a
But is it as cool as Cat Fingers?
Much
Cat
more
fingers
cool.
is kind of terrifying.
Like,
yes,
I
like
think
the
Cat
answer
fingers
is
is scary.
category.
that's not a legitimate question. Okay, let's continue with Stovall. And we had a separate roundtable about Steven and Connie, and we had a separate podcast other than that, I think. So, or I don't even.
Stovall is very important.
That was my
Really
first
not
ever
gonna talk about
podcast I
Stovall.
was on.
Right. So we've had discussion. We can keep it brief with Stovall. Stovall makes no sense. None. Like
Zero.
Or it makes all the sense, and we just don't know yet.
it makes great sense thematically, and it's one of the best things the show has done, like progressive wise. But just no, like how can Connie fuse? Like no, like it doesn't make sense.
No.
I don't.
See,
accept
it's progressive in
Conscious
our
magic.
world and in their world. It's just progression.
it is.
It's the literal
probably-
embodiment of progression.
I mean, I would say anything involving the crystal gems is progressive by homeworld standards, but yes, like Stovall especially. Yeah, like Alone Together,
don't
obviously.
Yeah,
and
I don't
What
think
would
it's about
Homeworld
Connie,
think of
though.
Stevani?
Homeworld would probably be like
kind of
discussed,
scared.
yeah.
'cause they're
Wow.
like,
Yeah.
I didn't even think of that. I mean, if they don't like two gems of different
Yeah,
types,
they would
fused,
not
a
be
gem and a
into it.
human.
Pretty
Not into it.
messed up.
Alone Together,
Well,
great.
it's not, they
and-
can't even be like a gym and a human. It's like a gym human and a human, and they're like, oh,
Yeah, that's true. It's even more
what?
confusing.
The wiki actually lists the gems, the fusions in order by how many gems they are, and so it has Stevani under 1/4 gem.
Yeah, I'm staring at it right now. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, that just shows how little sense it makes. So, the only way fusion makes sense is if it's a product of the physical gems. I'm not going to talk about this. Like, if the product of the physical gems interacting and Connie doesn't have a gem, like, it makes no sense.
I don't think it's about Connie though. I think it's
Is this
literally
back-
just about getting Steven in a state of mind where he's like that relaxed and that happy that he can fuse.
I understand,
Yeah.
like, that's not what I'm talking about, though. I'm talking about, like, physically, like, in terms of, like, explanations. Like, if the gem, like, the gem merges with another gem, that means that Steven's gem has to incorporate Connie's DNA. Like, not a, no.
Ooh.
No.
Dylan, I
Yeah.
swear, if you go back to your Connie is a gem theory from the Steven episode,
That's the only way
I'm
this
leaving.
makes
That'd be
sense. The
amazing.
only way this
Connie,
makes
please
sense.
be
I-
a gym.
Okay.
Connie is not gem Deus Ex Machina.
I think it's
She-
no. I don't.
she
I
definitely
agree.
be,
She,
but-
no, she's not. But it would be the only thing to make this make sense, other than like them actually explaining, which they never will. Okay, let's talk
What
about
if
Garnet.
Connie's
No.
bismuth?
No, stop. Let's talk about
Oh,
Garnet.
no. For real quick though, we go back to this like, because if it's supposed to be like a gym, and you know what you were kind of mentioning, Michelle, maybe I didn't hear the end of your sentence, but is it gonna like, could it be that if it's all about Steven, and the idea of fusion is that that two beings are in sync. If Steven does all the work, they're not really in sync, so that almost suggests that like. Obviously Steven didn't force the fusion, but like this idea that if it's all on Steven, then it doesn't matter that it was Connie, but it clearly does. So I just
That's
wanted
a
to
good point. I mean, I guess another point to kind of add to that would be like, and we need to talk. You could argue, like, you know, Greg did fuse with Rose at the end. I mean, Garnet and Amethyst seemed to be completely on board that they fused, and they didn't actually become like physically different, but they were in sync. So I guess that's true. Connie definitely played a big part in it. I guess I'm just thinking in terms of like how they physically changed. It had to have been Steven's gem that like
right.
figured all
Okay.
that out.
Yes.
But
Okay. More on this in other podcasts. Yeah. This is not. This dominates discussion. Me and Justin went on with this for a long time. The answer is it makes no sense. Anyway, let's Garnet. Let's keep going.
Okay, so Garnet, we've seen Garnet since the beginning. We did not officially get it confirmed until Jailbreak that Garnet is a fusion. Or kind of Return, Jailbreak, whichever one you want to say. But we had hints throughout the show. Garnet's the only, I'm going to use Paradox word, permafusion we've really seen. Basically, she walks around, acts like is a fusion all the time instead of just in dire situations. So I think it's almost weird how well Ruby and Sapphire work together for being different types of gems. They can stay fused that long and not become unstable.
Because they're in love.
Yeah,
Okay,
they're
yes,
like super in sync.
Garnet's in love, obviously. We had a whole
Okay, people
episode
would
about
argue that Pearl and Amethyst are in love too, but the fact
yes,
that
they
two
will.
gems are that perfectly in sync.
Okay.
It's
They're
like
soulmates.
I agree, it's
obviously.
notable, yeah.
Well, that's what I'm
know
arguing, is that
Garnet-
they were actually made for each other. Like,
For the record,
whoever made the gems.
For the record, I had no idea that Garnet was a fusion until it happened, so I don't know.
I had
Okay,
no
but
idea, and
the
I actually
door, the
avoided
temple
spoilers on
door, the
Tumblr.
red and the
I
blue on the
know, I
temple
didn't-
door. Come
Yeah,
on.
but I was also marathoning it, and I didn't pay attention to that. Also, I
Oh, well, I didn't have that
Well,
luxury.
yeah, the people who stuck with it from the beginning, we'd been wondering for like a long time. And by Fusion Cuisine, we'd pretty much confirmed that it was a thing.
Every
Yeah,
hiatus we had to sit
yeah.
through.
pretty blatant with the merging, and yeah.
Especially because she had two gems, and like no other gem we'd seen had two gems except for Fusion. So
Then that
it's
whole
just,
3i
the evidence
thing.
kept piling up.
It's also,
yeah.
these are all not Dylan ways of looking at the show anyway. But yeah, okay, I agree. Like, this is the type of hint, much like I would compare the Garnet thing to no spoilers, but there's a big twist in Mr. Robot season 1 that I think is handled in a similar way. It's not necessarily hidden, like all the hints are there. I did not see it coming though at the end.
Oh,
Like,
so when
did-
I make a reference
this
to
is
another
a very,
animated series,
It's not Power
it's
Rangers,
sad.
so
Yeah.
it's acceptable.
the only references that are banned are Power Rangers. Other than that, everything's fair game. But
No,
yeah,
you got mad at my Ninja Turtle reference too.
Well, okay. Yeah. Anyway, let's continue with Malachite.
Okay, Malachite is probably our embodiment of unstable fusion to the highest degree. Malachite importance is we first see this kind of inner fusion realm, basically inside the mind, this plane that we saw in Chilitide. Because we only really saw Malachite in Jailbreak, and then Chilitide we saw inside of Malachite, kind of. And the next time we saw it was Super Watermelon Island. So Chilitide's kind of the important one, where we physically see Jasper and Lapis struggling for control. And so that kind of raises the question if all fusions have that. So that's kind of where I wanted that discussion to go with Malachite.
Yeah, I mean, this is something the show kind of, I feel like, decided not to talk about.
Right.
I think we had the potential to talk about this type of control thing, and we didn't really go there. So I'm not sure if the show wants to talk about this, but I mean, he talked about it subtly for a while, but then Super Watermelon Island, it had a big chance to comment on this, and it passed it up. So whatever. One thing I want to talk about with Malachite is the fact that Malachite was stronger than Alexandrite. I thought was pretty notable because Malachite's about to win that battle. And until our anthropomorphic watermelons intervene, so I think that's pretty notable. I'm not sure why. I think this shows us a few things, that number of gems is not necessarily dependent on power level. 2 versus 4 here, and the 2's more powerful.
Well, it depends on the gyms. Look at Jasper.
Yeah, and
Right,
Lapis
so-
is crazy strong with
Oh
water.
yeah, Lapis
around.
is so OP. Lapis
Yeah.
is the most OP gym. Let's be honest.
I think that it's potentially dependent upon the power level of the component gems, although it's not clear. It's not clear how much stronger Lapis is than any of our crystal gems or anything like that.
And one of the 4 was Ruby, and from what we've seen of rubies, having 1 extra ruby isn't exactly a huge game changer.
Yeah, also Sapphire not necessarily physically strong, but yeah,
Right.
definitely
No.
powerful in her own way.
We did see Lapis fight the gems though, and she totally owned all of them except for Steven because he talked to her. But she made water replicas of all of them, and they were
Yeah.
kicking their butts. So
Yeah, I'm gonna say
She's
I'm gonna
strong.
say extenuating circumstances, but Like, I don't know. It's like the Zuko Katara. I've referenced this before in the Avatar Book 1 finale. Like, put Lapis not in the middle of the ocean, and that like goes differently. So I think that's my read on that. Anyway, you rise with the tide or whatever. That would be that line. Okay. Yeah. Malachite. We could talk a lot. We could probably have a separate podcast on Malachite. Like, I feel like that was kind of warranted after. We're very Lapis focused in our Lapis discussion, but let's continue because I want to get through. There's a lot of good stuff on this outline. Let's talk about Sardonyx.
Oh, thank you, Sardonyx. We had been waiting so long for Sardonyx. Basically, from the moment we saw Sugilite, we're like Pearl Garnet, Pearl Garnet, Pearl Garnet. When are we going to get it? And then they teased us with the name Sardonyx, and we got the week of Sardonyx, and we're like, we're going to get Sardonyx, and we saw it in one episode. So basically, the important thing to talk about Sardonyx is this kind of opened this big discussion about the importance of fusion and how the different gems view it. Not really Sardonyx herself is that important, but I guess the aftermath of Sardonyx is kind of where that needs to go. Because we only see Sardonyx one episode, and she's like a magician.
For a hot second, too.
Oh, we do, you're right. I forget because Steven and Amethyst running around just kind of overshadows everything in my mind.
Michelle, quick comments on Sardonyx?
I think Sardonyx is also important because it was one of the first times we see like different intentionality in gems for reasons of fusing. We see that again, and we need to talk when Pearl and Rose fuse. But I mean, because we kind of assumed, I think, up to that point that you had to like be in sync on like a lot of levels to be able to pull off fusion. But you can also be doing it for reasons that are different than the other person involved, and that can lead to trouble down the road. And I think that's really interesting, especially in terms of just like how it lended itself as a means to like further character development for Garnet and Pearl in particular, and Amethyst too, actually. So
is fusion easier than being drift compatible?
Did you just reference drift compatible? Is that Excel World?
No, that's Pacific Rim.
Oh, Pacific Rim. Sorry. I don't know why I'm thinking about Excel World.
Okay, we don't need to get into Pacific Rim. Let's talk about Rainbow.
Why not?
I think it's relevant.
I just wanted to say Sardonyx is actually my favorite, and she's just the best.
I think you already once you say the new rule is once you say one thing is your favorite when we're going over a bunch of things, then you can't say something else as your new favorite. Okay, that's the new rule. So
whenever I see Sardonyx, all I can think.
I honestly forgot about Sardonyx, and she's actually
how rude! How rude! Forgetting about.
I'm so bad. At
how rude!
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about Rainbow Quartz.
Rainbow Quartz is actually my favorite. So yay! I want more. I want so much more because she's like the 70s embodied.
For like 5 seconds.
Well,
I know, and it was amazing.
But she kind of is.
Okay, Rainbow Quartz. This is the first time we saw Rose fuse ever. That's kind of important, I guess, in the context of the show. And also...
But we see Rose like 4 times, so...
Rose, yes, and this one's a fusion. So really, that's the only important thing about Rainbow Quartz, is this confirmed that that Rose fused with people, because we didn't know for sure that Rose ever fused. So this is our confirmation, and she's wonderful.
The important thing about Rainbow Quartz.
Also,
okay, Salty Pearl was great too, but I just imagine... I just want Rainbow Quartz in every 80s dance movie ever. I want that.
Rainbow Quartz is literally the physical manifestation of the gay. So also Garnet.
Pretty much.
So,
but she's Flashdance.
Well, all of the fusions are manifestation of the gay, Dylan.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. I mean, I guess
not the cluster fusions.
So, and like should we include the cluster in this discussion?
Yeah, let's
I think
the
not.
cluster.
Okay, Michelle, favorite fusion out of those 8 or whatever.
Opals or Sardonyx. I can't choose between those two.
And we heard Delaney's indecision.
Sardonyx talks the most also, by the way.
She does, yeah.
Justin, favorite fusion?
Rainbow Quartz!
I'll go with Garnet or Stovall. I think those are the obvious picks. I
didn't say Garnet. That hurt.
Yeah.
Garnet's just my favorite character, so she's not my favorite fusion. She's just the best character, so it doesn't matter.
Okay, so next you have fusion culture. I mean, this could be a separate podcast. So
this really could.
Yeah.
Do you want to save it, or do you want to get into it? Because once we get into it, I ain't getting out of it.
Talk like 10 seconds about each point. Like,
okay.
We'll see. Yeah.
I'll just run through the whole section, and then we'll.
Yeah.
Okay. So fusion culture, basically, I broke it up: crystal gem attitude and homeworld attitude. Garnet talks about it being sacred, a choice, and has to be full of love. It can be used both in battle and in their daily life, and any species or type of gem confused with another type, or even human, or whatever. Free love, man. Homeworld attitude, only within the same type of gem and only for combat, and everything else is seen as disgraceful. So that's kind of the gist I got at the two sides.
Yeah, I think it's kind of not clear where we're at with Homeworld's attitude.
I don't think it's changed. I'm pretty sure they're as against it as they were in the answer.
Right, I think that's probably true, but I think we really only see Jasper representing this, and kind of like.
But Peridot too.
We
Peridot
know Peridot has like biases, yeah.
Right.
So I think I would like to see like Yellow Diamond talking about fusion.
But the thing is also the fact that they've done experiments on it means that they're willing to.
But only with the dead ones.
Yeah.
Well,
in essence.
So you could. It's possible, like they've embraced the power qualities of fusion, and they're using that with the cluster after like the rebellion and stuff like that.
But again, only as like a means to powerful.
I agree. But I also think that we shouldn't. I also think that's kind of an important thing to gem culture, although we don't really know. I could see it becoming like an acceptable thing through it being like, oh yeah, this is very practical, and like I feel like that might, if anything in gem culture is gonna like break out of the biases of that, it would be this type of attitude towards it. But yeah, I know we're assuming a lot of it based on the answer, which was a while ago. So I also like
the answer, Peridot, and Jasper as well.
Right. So I'd also like to talk to. I also think it'd be interesting to see Jasper's attitude on this when Jasper never comes back because she's dead. But if she were to come back,
don't even joke about
this. I dropped the stick and it fell out of existence.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Literally that. Okay. You have lingering questions on the gems. Yes. Let's talk about future fusions. Is a separate one. Let's talk about A and B here.
Okay, start with biological. I'm just going to ask the questions, get the answers from y'all.
Yeah, okay.
And then
I'll
get
answer
the next
that.
question.
I'll answer each of them very succinctly. The answer's going to be no, but keep going.
No.
Okay, you're terrible. Can two same gems fuse with a third different gem?
The answer to that one is yes. Okay, so yeah. I think I don't know why they wouldn't be able to. Is my answer to that.
Well, what would they form? So, like, two rubies and a sapphire. Would that just form a bigger garnet, or would that form a different gem?
It would form a more red garnet.
Like, purely hypothetical.
Yeah,
purely hypothetical.
It would form a garnet that is 1/3 bigger and more red in that third. Like,
would it have 3 arms and 3 gauntlets?
I don't know how the more body part things works, but like whatever. I think I don't see a reason why they give ruby fused with navy and then they fused with sapphire. Like, I don't see why that couldn't happen.
Also, what about personality-wise? Like, I think we're missing a piece here about like all of our crystal gems are different, and so like, how does these I want to see like I want to see a ruby and a sapphire fuse who are ruby and sapphire, and like obviously that garnet has to be different. Is it even a garnet? Like what? Like,
what if those two garnets fuse? Would that be a big garnet?
It would be a different garnet. I think that's a good point because. One thing we haven't really brought up is that all the fusions have very particular personalities that are very different given like which combination you're dealing with. Like Sardonyx's personality is so different from like Sugilite or Opal's. And that's super interesting. Just to think about like what characteristics certain gem like fusions bring out in each other. So I'd imagine if it was different rubies with the different sapphire, the personality of that fusion would be very different from.
Yeah, because like the 5 rubies we saw, they have similarities, but each one of them was definitely a bit different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. There's a lot of interesting questions. I think the answer. Do you agree, Justin? The answer is yes for this one, though.
All right. Yeah, you can't answer the second one with no. How many gems can fuse?
I can. The answer is no. There's no set number.
There's no maximum.
Yeah, I think the cluster is like this, right?
Prime example, right?
Well, I think technically there might not be a limit, but I think it's harder for gems to stay fused the more there is.
Right.
So technically, like, you get to a certain amount, it'd just be really unsustainable after like a couple seconds.
Yeah, like how long can you keep 10 different gems in sync perfectly?
Yeah, very possible. All right, next.
All right, Steven, just everything Steven.
Yeah, for more on this, listen to our previous roundtable. Steven doesn't make any sense. Okay, continue.
We should actually change the title of that episode. Steven doesn't make any sense.
It's
culture questions. Has Homeworld's attitude changed?
Yeah, we talked about this. I think yes.
Dylan thinks so.
I don't think it's like
Dylan is wrong.
I don't think they're like accepting, but I think it's clearly different from from the answer. But I also
want to hear more from Michelle. Why is Dylan wrong, or more specifically, how? I love when Dylan's wrong.
I don't think their attitude has really changed. I think the only reason they decided to do cluster experiences is because the majority of those clusters were like broken crystal gems. So they had absolutely no reason to not use them since they were the enemy to begin with. But I don't think they're like doing cluster experiments like on Homeworld or like anything like that. I think it's a very Earth particular thing. And I mean like just like based off of how Peridot ended up handling Garnet as a thing and how she started off just being like so uncomfortable about Garnet because like for her Garnet being fused is like having like a loaded gun around.
Yeah, exactly.
So like I don't think it's changed. And even though it's been like thousands of years, that's like not very long for like gem society since they live kind of forever unless they're smashed. I don't think it's really changed that much at all.
The cluster was a war crime. Like what they've done is they're war crimes, and that's completely different
ever.
than like it's very different from like a society actually changing and like kind of like getting their feet wet. No, they committed war crimes. So I'd like that's actually a good example of like how it hasn't changed. Like no, it's like it's like the war crimes that occurred in World War II. They did horrific experiments that had nothing to do with what they thought about like and the subjects and what they did were like it all stemmed from hate and like they wanted to know more scientifically, but they didn't care what happened to the subjects. So this is what's going on here. Like it's just war crimes. Like they're just doing experiments. They don't really care about it.
Right. So,
because like it's not gems from Homeworld that they're using. It's specifically like crystal gems. So
and we'll see more about the cluster, I would presume, later. Obviously, they're not accepting. The difference can be seen, I would say, like shocked that a fusion exists to just having like a negative attitude about it. Like you start to see kind of a progression here that we've maybe seen some similar things do in our society. Okay, let's keep going.
This is an interesting question. How romantic did Greg view fusion?
Ugh.
Because I think he saw his and Rose's potential fusion as romantic, but did he see Pearl and Rose's fusion or any other fusions that way?
I think so. Yeah, for sure.
I think it's probably hard for humans not to look at fusion and compare it to things that exist in our society, like relationships. So, yeah, I think that's a very realistic reaction from Greg.
And Greg's a really smart dude. Like
Greg is a smart dude.
Like sometimes Greg says dumb stuff, but Greg's A+. He is A+ people, and I think
Greg's A+.
He knew, and I think like Greg probably like just thinks fusion's like awesome everywhere, all around. Like it's Greg.
Yeah,
like, Greg's cool.
We should have done a Greg episode for Father's Day.
We really should.
Awesome.
Oh my god! Actually, that's a really good idea. I feel bad now.
I'll do an article. It's okay. I got you, fam.
Greg is not a person with feelings, so you're not.
Yes, he is.
You're not offending him. Okay, let's now to close things out. What fusions will we be seeing in the future? We have unprecedented access to Peridot and Lapis, and Jasper's dead, so not her. But maybe if she came back to life, then Jasper. I'm joking. I'm joking, by the way. So what is the first? Okay, so who fuses on camera first? Peridot or Lapis? Justin, who?
Trick question. Peridot fuses with Lapis.
That is the third. That's the third option. Michelle, what's your answer?
Probably Peridot.
Delaney.
Peridot.
I agree. Peridot's fusing with Michelle.
Lapis or maybe Garnet, I guess. Though I still think Garnet has too much game for Peridot right now.
Too much game.
Yeah, no, really.
That's why it's perfect. Anyway.
It's really not that hard. Peridot has
You need a fusion mentor.
Delaney, who's Peridot fusing with?
Steven.
No.
I like that idea. I love that idea.
No.
Delaney gets +1 Justin points.
No.
Thanks.
No.
You're welcome.
The answer is Garnet, obviously. Followed by Amethyst, followed by
Dylan. If we evaluate the times Delaney's been right in our discussions over the past 4 months.
Okay, to be fair, you correctly predicted everything that would happen in Gem Drill, but other than that,
Delaney has future vision.
Yeah, exactly.
Delaney's actually Sapphire.
Steven's not fusing. Okay, anyway, who's Lapis fusing with first? Michelle.
Oh God. Well, maybe no one. I mean, I don't really.
Lapis
I don't
never
wanna
fuses
fuse
is an option. That's an option.
I don't think she. I don't really want it. I think she just needs her own space. She's been fused for a long time. So-
Delaney, who's Lapis fusing with?
I don't really. I don't really think she will fuse. But if she does, I could see her and Amethyst, because I feel like if they're going to do a fusion with Lapis, it's going to be like a really kind of weird off the wall one, and I think it could be Amethyst.
Justin,
I would love to see that.
I like that idea.
Justin, what's your answer? Obviously, it is
Lapidot, ooh, lappa.
Yeah,
I am also about Lapidot, for the record.
I also think that
Ba-dum,
Lapis
bum.
will be fusing with Peridot first. Yes.
What about Lapis Steven?
Again,
I
don't
also had
want-
that thought.
I don't want Steven
guess,
fusing with
but
grown
I
gems,
don't
but
know.
maybe.
I
Let's
want
get
my
Lapis.
Why does
Stapis.
fusing with ground gems? I mean, it's just like him getting used to his powers. That's pretty.
And it's not
Well, we
necessarily.
have- we have
It can
something
be
about
about, and it can be like I know Dylan's probably getting a little squeaky because we're like, fusion's sometimes like sex,
Yeah.
but no,
Oh,
it can also
really?
be like
Yes, that is.
they're
what
like, but they're also like they're like his family members, and
Yeah.
it can be more. There's
I know,
some
I
things
understand.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
can
I
have
like.
that.
I kind of like that aspect of
platonic
it.
fusions. Platonic
If
fusions.
Ruby's fusing with other rubies is like pretty platonic, so there's a lot of things you could
Actually,
interpret.
Michelle, which 2 rubies out of the 5 do you ship the most?
Oh God, Navy and the one with the yellow glasses.
Navy and I don't remember what.
Doc?
Like
Doc?
head honcho, yeah.
Why you ship
Navy
Navy and
and
Doc? Why are you?
Because you got the sweet one and you got like the kind of scrappy gruff one. It's the
Oh, so that
perfect
means
complement.
you're into Zutara, huh?
Yes, I am.
Oh my god. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
what?
That gets you kicked
What?
off the
Why you
podcast.
said that,
What?
Dylan?
That gets you
What?
kicked off the podcast.
What?
Okay. I'm sorry. I
Delaney,
didn't.
instate me. It's
I
alright.
might have
Dylan.
known that and have like put it out of my mind, but yeah. That's
I think I made a comment when we found this out. I feel like I was like,
I tend to like repress super unpleasant facts about people I know, so like that's.
Is shipping Tylee and Sokka acceptable, or do I get
Yes,
kicked
that's
off
fine.
too?
No, that's
Thank
okay.
you.
You just
That's-
can't ship Zatara. Like that's literally the only requirement. You just can't ship Zatara.
What's the Zutara
wrong
of
with
Steven
Zutara,
Universe? Delaney?
Dylan?
Everything.
What is Zatara?
It's a ship. It's like
No, it's
you
not.
know,
What's
if it was like Huey.
Can I ship their daughters? Is that acceptable?
What?
Kaya and Azumi, can they be shipped?
Yeah, go for it.
sure.
That's fine.
This is a
Sweet.
very
Thank you.
Fine.
fine.
It just can't be
Ship.
Zatara, Justin. It's fine as
Okay.
long as you don't ship Zatara.
Delaney, which 2 rubies do you ship together?
I can't remember all of their names.
You
Like,
can
the
just
really
think-
dumb one,
The little what?
the really dumb one, like
Yeah.
the one that was so like that
Yeah.
one's my fave, and then I shipped that one with because I only remember this one's name, Leggy.
Which one's? I don't remember.
I
Anyway.
don't even know.
I think you just said you ship Leggy and Leggy.
Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah, I think
Arm
that
leg
is.
2. Anyway, yeah, no, Army and leg 2. I shipped that one. Just so
Hey,
we can
self-shipping
move on.
is a thing. I've seen it on fanfiction. You win.
Michelle, what would the Lapidot fusion be?
What, like, would it look like? Or
What gem would it be? Right.
Ooh.
Oh, well, with
Also,
gem,
like,
I mean, it's Lapidot, so
Well,
I mean,
whatever-
they have both gems.
Whatever the name is, right?
What's the name? Yeah.
Oh God, I don't know. I need like time to come up with a good name.
We're not geologists.
Oh, so that
Oh,
we need to bring in an expert. for that.
Maybe, yeah. What would a good?
Dylan's the
I don't
expert here.
know. Maybe like
Yeah.
Topaz or something. Who knows?
Topaz.
There was
yeah.
a Topaz theory for a while there, that by the
really
end of
do wanna
season 2 we
see
would get Topaz.
Okay, what will
And
we
if-
see first? Let's go with this. Will we see Peridot and Amethyst, or Lapis and anyone, Delaney? What will we see first?
Peridot and Amethyst.
Yeah,
We're
not
gonna see
Lapis.
Lapis fused for forever.
If anyone
Oh,
like
well, we
asks
already
her,
did
she'd
see
be like,
Lapis
"Do
fused.
not
That's right.
forget
Okay,
me
Jake.
fused for like months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Lapis
Give
was
her
used for an
Tinder
entire
and a
season.
Yeah, she's had enough of that for a while.
I want to stake a claim on Lapidot's gem being turquoise. That's just what I'm going to stake that claim right now.
Ooh.
I like turquoise too.
okay. What
That is
fusion? Okay, new
solid.
question. What fusion that we have not seen yet do you most want to see, Delaney?
That I most want to see. I want to see Steven fuse with a gem. Like that's what
Okay.
I
Yeah.
want. So I want Steven and honestly, I don't care who it is, but I guess Steven and Peridot just because I need more Peridot in my life, even though she's literally the entire show right now.
Justin.
Mine's very, very off the wall, and before anyone jumps down my throat and kills me, this would be a very, very platonic family thing. I want to see Steven and Greg fuse.
That'd be cool.
I think that's a cool dynamic.
I like that.
I like this idea.
Yeah.
I think
enjoy that.
no one's talking about it. I think it would really. The
would
bond
just make
those two
Greg's
have
life.
is very
Yeah, that's-
unique on television. Yeah, it would. Lifelong dream of Greg's basically to fuse. I think it would be just such a touching, sentimental episode. You would hate it, Dylan, but I would. love it.
I will say that will not happen, but that is interesting.
That
Oh,
would be
come
awesome.
on!
I'm virtually
that's
high-fiving
not
you,
an
Justin.
opinion. Like, I'm just saying, like, I think that it's not me saying I don't want it. I'm just saying, like, I don't see that happening, but it is interesting. What else we got? So, Michelle, which do you most want to see?
I want to see us know who Bismuth is.
No,
and then
that's
have
not.
fuse with someone.
No business. I thought I banned business. I'm pretty sure I banned business discussion.
You did not.
Yes, you bet so many things. It's probably just really therapeutic.
Okay, for now on,
Bismuth will fuse with Lapidat.
bismuth discussion is here for a ban.
I don't even know what bismuth is. Like, what are
It's
you
nothing.
talking
It's nothing.
about?
Okay.
It's the gem
Delay-
inside lion.
Yeah, do you
The
remember
one
that bubbled
bubble.
pyramid-looking gem inside lion?
It's not a thing.
That's a
Really
piece of
big bubble.
bismuth.
It's not a thing.
That's
Okay.
what the stone
I'm so
looks
glad I
like.
don't pay attention enough to know what y'all are
It's
talking
not
about.
a thing. Okay, I'm gonna say Peridot and everyone, but Peridot except for Steven. Peridot and Garnet, followed by Peridot and Amethyst. So
I do want to see Peridot and Garnet fuse, for the record. Like, that's
Yeah.
going to be amazing, and I'm here for it.
Oh, wait, no, I have a better answer. Lapis and Pearl.
I call it now
Can
Lapis
we
Pearl will be
handle
called
that?
Jade.
In
Yeah.
a perfect world, yeah, I'd like to see Lapis.
that would
I
be-
would die. There would be, like,
I
the best
know.
people.
I
Yeah,
agree.
Lapis, Pearl. That's the answer. Okay.
Oh my god, she'd be sassier than Sardonyx. How are we
Yeah.
going to deal with that? Like,
We should
we're gonna
get
Hashtag
die.
sassier than Sardonyx.
No, bad hashtag for the podcast. But speaking of, what is our? We're closing it out here. What's our
Hashtag A+ Greg.
Hashtag A+ Greg.
Hashtag
like this.
turquoise.
For
I don't think you
Father's
can
Day.
I don't think you can put plus signs in hashtags, but maybe you can. I'm not sure.
Hashtag can you make a plus sign in a hashtag? Write the whole thing out.
So we don't. Okay, I was gonna.
You have
Never
a lot of
mind.
time in your hands.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. Thanks. We're gonna cut it off here. Let us know your answers to all of these questions on fusions. You can leave comments on the website overlyanimated.com. Comments on YouTube on this video and subscribe to us there. And Tumblr asks, of course, our comments or when you're reblogging or whatever. We'll be back next week to discuss something because it doesn't look like Stephen Floats will air, and then
Something.
the week after that, who knows what?
It's gonna be a whole discussion on Bismuth. That's what's gonna be.
Yes, can we have one
Bismuth-
Bismuth episode to get it out of our
Bismuth-
system?
Bismuth
And
discussion
White
is
Diamonds.
banned from the podcast. I do not want to hear that
Let's-
word again.
We'll just get rid of it with one big episode, and then we'll never talk about it again until it's confirmed.
Exactly.
It's
That's
no-
the pragmatic.
impossible.
Let us get it
because
out
it's
of our
not no.
system.
Bismuth, no more bismuth. No
I will
more.
write an article every day until you write a Bismuth roundtable, unless you let us do this.
What's the second thing that I'm really pissed at with Steven Universe theories? I said I'm done with bismuth, and what's
You
the second one?
think that Rose Quartz's name is not actually Rose Quartz?
That's
You
not.
think
That
that's
wasn't my
a
second
huge-
thing. That wasn't my
Well,
second.
I don't
thing.
know, Dylan.
I don't remember. I said
Stappus?
this
Are you
on
sick
a-
of Stappus?
I said this on a podcast. I don't remember what it was though. Oh, I'm sick of like Jasper. What is it? I'm sick of Jasper talk. Is that it? I don't know.
No, Jasper and
How
Lapis.
can we sick of Jasper talk? She's barely done anything yet.
I think Lapis X Jasper you were sick of.
Well, I'm definitely. I don't like that, obviously, but I don't know. Anyway, someone go
You
back
can't
and
go
figure
all
out what
the
I
things
said.
you hate, Dylan.
Yeah, I hate
It's
a
too
lot of
Tumblr,
much.
you have your mission. What is
Okay.
Dylan sick of?
A lot of it. I don't think they care, but
Everything.
yeah. So
Tumblr cares about everything.
Delaney's. You're not even on Tumblr. Don't even.
I know. I don't need to. I see
Not
Tumblr
even
on
on-
Facebook. That's how bad it
Yeah,
is.
that's like the worst.
even-
Yeah,
That is the worst
Yeah.
thing. And then you see Facebook on Tumblr, and I'm like, I don't like either of these
Yeah,
things next to each
not
other.
good.
Stop.
Okay. Delaney Stovall, Michelle Anderer, Justin Cummings, I'm Dylan Hysen. Overlyanimated.com. You can check us out. iTunes reviews, please. When you're looking for iTunes reviews, if you enjoy the podcast, you can support us on patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thank you very much to our patrons. Mitch Cordell, Beatrice, Nate, Andy, Jamie, Rachel, John, Ryan, Catherine, and new patron today, Taylor.
We're gonna go with the nickname.
Taylor.
So start thinking of a nickname for Taylor, yeah.
Swear.
What does Taylor watch?
Taylor watches Steven Universe and and Voltron. So that's what.
Ooh, we should come up with Voltron nickname. We have to come up with a
Yeah.
Voltron
We need a
nickname.
Voltron name. I like that idea.
Fever, Mitch, Good University Beach, Extinct, Nathan, Fillion, Buzz Lightyear, Mailman, Rachel, Giant Rob, Brian, Cookie Cat, and to be determined. Yeah, Voltron.
No, I got it. Arm leg. Taylor's arm leg.
Nope, you can't
Arm
just. They can't just stop saying arm leg. That's not the answer to everything. Okay.
I'm a leg.
Speaking of, tomorrow we will have our Voltron Legendary Defender listener feedback show out. We're recording it just after this, but it'll be out tomorrow. And then on Monday will be our first. We're recording that today, but our first Miraculous Ladybug Roundtable. So look for that, and check out future podcasts overlyanimated.com. We're all waiting for Steven Universe to come back and stuff. And yeah, I don't know. Last comments, guys. Anything?
Can we let Delaney go eat pizza now, please?
Nope. Okay. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next
Lady, all
time.
the pizza.
Hashtag free Delaney.
Say bye. Bye.
Okay,
Bye.